to get that 2-1 advantage. Let's check in with the voice of the Golden State Warriors. Tim Roye's in Boston, ready for the call tonight. Tim, how are you? Tim, you got me?
Hello?
Hey, Tim, you got us okay?
Yes, yeah, I got you.
So let's start with what we know. You've seen 2 games. You've called 2 games. They don't tell the whole story, and each game kind of is its own chapter. But what do you feel like after seeing 2 are certainties that you think will carry over into game 3 and 4? Like that, for Boston to win, they need this. For the Warriors to win, they need this. What would you say that you can define so far through 2 games?
I think for first of all, I think it's definitely going to be very physical tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think Boston's got to come out and try to bang the Warriors around. That has been their MO with the Warriors for the last 7 years, and it's worked pretty well for them. But I would say that I think it's going to be real physical, and if it's like game 2, then there's going to be a lot of physicality on both sides. So that's one. And then what do we know? Okay, the Celtics, if they're going to win, then they're going to need contributions from other guys. They can't have Smart, Horford, and White combined for 9-10 points. If that happens, then the Warriors are going to win. So they're going to need other guys to knock down shots other than Tatum and Brown. And for the Warriors, if they go on to win, they have to have a couple more guys come along for the ride. Poole is a great X factor for them, kind of like what Grant Williams is for Boston. When those guys score, usually those teams win. But I think, Klay Thompson is due for a good game. He struggled a little bit. So for the Warriors to win, I think they need to keep playing the defense they played in Game 2 and moving the basketball. When they get close to 30 assists, usually that's a win for Golden State.
Tim, obviously the Warriors have played a lot of finals in Cleveland. They played the finals in Toronto. Boston is a completely different animal. Just how important is that home court advantage going to be for the Celtics tonight, and how are the Warriors going to have to counter that and prepare for that?
I don't think both these teams have played in hostile environments. And I think Boston, even though it is a loud, hostile environment, they played in Cleveland, where the crowd has a certain, shall we say, flair to how they go about things. But you have to remember that I don't think for the Warriors it's as big a deal as for other teams. You got to remember that this group, the trio of Thompson and Curry and Draymond Green, they've won a road game in every playoff series they've ever played in. Every one. 20, it's a record. It's an NBA record. And so I don't think home crowd will be as big a deal. I mean, certainly, I think the home crowd will be bigger for Boston because they're younger players tend to react better to worship as opposed to people not liking you. So I think it might be bigger for Boston.
Tim, I think the similarities here that I've appreciated, both teams can hit threes in bunches, high volumes of threes, and both teams can be turnover prone, but it feels like the Warriors can win a game when they commit turnovers at a high clip. I don't know that Boston can. Do you agree with that?
Well, if the Warriors can win a game when they're throwing the ball around, if they shoot it well and if they defend it well. If they get the other 2 things, then they'll be fine. But I think for Boston, I think their margin of error is a little thinner, just simply because they have a number of guys who tend to be, I think, a little more streaky than the Warriors are, and so if those guys aren't hitting, then I think it's a real problem for Boston if they have 15 to 20 turnovers and like the other night, and the Warriors are scoring off those. Plus, the other part about it is what kind of a turnover is it? Is it a turnover, where it's a pass, for both these teams in midcourt and it leads to a fast break, or is it just throwing the ball out of bounds where the other team has to walk it back up the floor? A live ball turnover turns into points a lot easier than, say, a dead ball turnover.
Tim Roye, the voice of the Warriors, joining us. Tim, from your perspective, how big of a boost was it for Golden State to get Gary Payton II back for Game 2?
Huge, just huge. He gives them that unique player that you have to deal with. If you're the guy bringing the ball up the floor, or you're the guy that's coming up the floor, and you see Gary Payton is going to be guarding you, you see their shoulders slump a little bit, like, oh, this is going to be a pain, because he's going to touch him, and he's going to bump him, and he's going to be everywhere with him. And the other thing that makes Gary unique is that he's a really good floor spacer. He understands how the game needs to be played now. So when he runs and spaces to the corner, it's a good, hard run to the corner. so that that defender has to honor that and has to go with him. And then if he's not in the corner, he's going to be around the basket. And when you have guys like Steph and Clay, a guy like Gary Payton sometimes goes unnoticed, and then all of a sudden there he is getting a layup, getting a dunk. And he's a really, really good finisher around the basket, maybe one of the best in the league under 6'5".
Tim, game one I thought was played at such a good pace, good back and forth. Not a lot of calls made, not a ton of free throws. Game two, I thought Draymond set the tone physicality wise. There were more calls made. I think you're spot on. I anticipate Boston to have that same kind of physicality tonight. So, with that said, officials, I mean, they are part of the game. Hopefully, they're not the deciding factor, but do they call fouls early? Are teams in a penalty 4 minutes in? There's things that can factor here. And when I see that Scott Foster is the head official tonight, my antenna raised. What are your thoughts about not just him, but just the way the game might be called tonight by the officials?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. I hope that they come at it with, as well as being technically sound, which they are. We get the best officials in the finals, and but also have that little feel. Like the other night when Draymond got that first technical, I thought that very easily could have been handled with a warning, like, "Hey guys, cut it out," and just stop it, and then move on. And I hope there's more of that, trying to get in there and say, "Okay, you guys don't want us to make 8 million calls because you want to play. So you want to play? Let's cut off the stupid stuff." And hopefully that's what happens tonight, because what you want to see is these two teams go at each other with everybody healthy and playing at a very high level. And if that happens, then I think it's really great for the game. There were times in game one where I thought, wow, this is really cool.
Yes, I agree. And what else is cool, and you've watched his whole career, we give him a ton of praise and maybe even deserves more, but Steph, he's looking at every defense. He's looking at the best defense, and he's still cooking in these finals, and sometimes not with enough help. I mean, it's amazing what he's done, and I still feel like, Tim, he could probably do more, which is scary.
Yeah, and it's so funny to, you turn your TV on in the morning and you hear this unfounded, ridiculously stupid narrative that he needs a finals MVP to, cement a legacy. I mean, he doesn't need a finals MVP, in my opinion. He's changed the game. He's one of the best players ever to play, and I'm on a radio show right now. Okay? I'm with the Warriors. Yeah, getting obscure. Yeah, he's just doing his job.
Okay.
So so where were we? Oh yeah. Well, he doesn't need anything to cement his legacy. If you look at his finals numbers, they're better than Kobe Bryant's, or better or even with Kobe Bryant, better or even with Larry Bird. Yeah. So he's fine. He's just marvelous to deal with.
Yeah,
I just love talking with him and hanging out with him, and we don't, we're not buddies or anything, but he's just great to deal with.
Yeah, we were talking about you earlier, Tim, when your years in Sacramento, your early years with the Warriors, all the losses you had to endure, and I'm sure at some point you dreamt of calling a final. But 6 in 8 years, I know you're not tired of it. How great is this run for you personally?
I pinch myself every day. I can't believe I get to do this for a living, and I'm really thrilled. Most of all for our fan base, because they were with us through all those lean years, and they had to suffer through a lot of downtimes and places where people didn't even know where Golden State was, and to do this. And to be honest with you, I got totally honest with the fact that thanks to our ownership, I have championship rings, and guys like Al McCoy and Gary Gerald don't. That just blows my mind. Just blows my mind that how lucky I am.
So make sure if you do get 3 more wins, you don't wear all 4 rings around Al or G-Man at the same time.
No, I won't. I don't do that.
I know you don't. Yeah, and you're still in the same goofy broadcast location there in Boston. Still that weird angle.
Can't wait to have the guy coming down the right side of the floor, and he's on my left.
Yes.
I can't wait to look to the far corner to my right and realize I can't see anything over there.
Exactly.
And I can't see the sidelines at the far end or the end line. So, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I know you will enjoy it. It's going to be a fun couple of days. It's been a good series so far. I think it has a chance to be just an all-time classic. Tim, enjoy it. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
All right. Thank you. That's the great Tim Roye, he is so right, though, about Boston. That was the first time I called a game there. Sean Grandy's their radio play-by-play voice, Jay, and he told me, he's like, hey, little tip, don't do right or left. Like, just, I'm like, what do you mean? Why wouldn't I? But he's right. Like, when they're coming here, the normal right, it's flipped, and it's weird. I know it doesn't make sense, but you're at a baseline on the curve angle.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Why?
So, like, imagine the Kings
What's
running.
their reasoning, the organization?
I have no idea why they put him there, but if the Kings were running at you and a pass to the Kings point guard's right, where I'm looking at it, it's it's just.
That just sounds like
weird.
I would mess up that so bad.
And so I just, like, to the wing, you know. And then the one that the worst part, truly, than that is where the basket stanchion is, you are blocked from the corner. And I remember calling, this was years ago, Kings and Celtics, and Rondo was a Celtic then, and threw a pass to the corner. What I see is him, like, releasing a two-hand chest pass. It, like, did it go?
You don't know where it went.
I don't, and then I see a ball go up, and I'm like, corner 3, because I could see the ref, and then it was good, and then I had to wait. Ray Allen knocks it. I couldn't even see who it was.
How difficult is that to adjust to? Because I'm guessing that's the only arena that's like that.
Yeah, there's some goofy locations. That one's probably the weirdest and odd. And sometimes the players, you're closer to the Celtics bench, and if they stand, now you're also, like, blocked, and you gotta.
Doesn't sound fun.
You gotta call the game, but it's the finals. Like, Tim will love that. But man, there's some adjustments that need to be made. And could you imagine if they get another ring, man?